1 in 3 women globally will experience some form of domestic violence in her lifetime. My guest is one of those women, but she has moved from victim to survivor to overcomer. Dr. Ramona Probasco has a doctorate in psychology, a 20-year practice as a marriage and family therapist, and she is a certified domestic violence counselor. But for 20 years, she was a master secret bearer. Your public self fooled pretty much everybody, Ramona.
Yes, it did. Thank you for having me, Moira. I really appreciate it. That's very true. I lived a dual life, and often the abuser will present with a dual nature, a Dr. Jekyll and a Mr. Hyde. But in order to survive a situation like that, the recipient of the abuse also develops, in a sense, a dual nature. I refer to it as a pseudo-self. It's a mask that we wear to present one way in public, but a whole different way in private.
Typically, people will say, why don't you just leave?
Yes.
Statistics show that can be fatal.
Absolutely. It's actually 75% more dangerous at the time of leaving than at any other time. So if a person can prepare to leave by working hopefully with someone who's trained in the area of domestic violence to set up a safety plan, I always encourage that. There's not always time for that, but a safety plan is a wise thing to develop for yourself, to have for yourself prior to leaving. And you know, the phrase, the way you said it, people ask the question, why don't you just leave?
Yes.
And how the word just is often put before the word leave.
As if it's something simple.
As if it's easy.
A no-brainer.
It's complicated and it's dangerous and people can be killed. So abusers do not allow themselves to just be left because they're forfeiting the power and control.
You learn so much the hard way.
Yes.
Abuse always escalates.
Yes, it does.
And only 1% change.
That's absolutely true.
You were like so many women. You think if I just try one more time,
Yes.
you'll change.
I really, very early on, we got married when both of us were quite young. And I had this belief, unspoken, but that I could love him into wellness. And you know what? You can't love people into wellness. We can love them, but not into wellness because they have to want it for themselves.
This may be a shocker. This is the man who led you to Christ.
I know.
Out of a religious background.
Yes.
He was significant in your spiritual awakening.
Yes.
And then nearly killed you.
He was the first person to share Christ with me. He wasn't ultimately the person who led me to the Lord, but he was the first one to introduce me about having a personal relationship with Jesus. And so I'll be forever grateful to him for that. And all 3 of our children know and love Jesus. But yeah, that was a real mind bender. We dated approximately 3 years, and then a little over 3 years into the marriage, so 6 years into the relationship, I had asked him a question about an electric bill that he said he was going to pay and didn't pay. And he got upset with me and picked me up and threw me against the headboard of our bed. And it was a mind bender. I was like, okay, this is a person that says he loves me and that I'm important to him and that I matter, but yet he just did something that I wouldn't even expect a stranger to ever attempt to do.
You say our bodies demand we pay attention to stress and emotional pain.
Yes.
Shocking to read how your body said, we got to make a change.
That's right. That's right.
It wasn't just the bruises.
That's right. That's right. About 10 years into the marriage, I started developing joint pain and was later diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And I do believe that, you know, our body keeps score. Trauma gets stored in our brain, but in our different body parts as well. And pain demands to be heard. And I believe that's God wired us. He created us that way because we're supposed to pay attention to when we hurt. But in an abusive situation and when there's confusion about, you know, what does God think about this? And is it okay to leave a situation like that? Many people will stay. And like myself, I thought if I just pray harder, believe more, have more faith, I'll have the miracle and he'll change.
An ulcer, an autoimmune disease, so young.
Well, the Lord did heal me, but in my particular situation, you know, I worked with a naturopath for 2 years straight and was able to tilt it back to the other side of hell, thank God.
Here's another shocker. Abuse is not a couple's issue.
That's right. And a lot of people don't understand that. They think it's often misdiagnosed when people will go to a counselor that doesn't have training on domestic violence, or a well-meaning pastor that just doesn't get it. They will try to apply the same tools that you use with regular marital conflict. And it's not. Abuse is exclusively the responsibility of the abuser. So in other words, the recipient didn't cause it, can't cure it, can't control it. You can only leave it. You can't manage it. And so few, like you said, 1% of abusers, 1 to 3. I did find some research that a whopping 3%, but it's not high, you know, because it takes a lot of deep, deep soul searching. And again, they don't want to relinquish the benefits of the power and control.
We're going to find out that super traits can be a stumbling block to freedom, and safety is not the end goal. I've learned from Dr. Ramona. Healing well is, and we're going to find out what that entails after this.